It is NBA trade deadline day. Across the NBA, moves have been made. Madness has ensued. We are coming to the tail end of our day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, but we've got you covered with all the latest. We've been breaking it all down, and you can always check out your local channel to find out the latest of what is going on in your neighborhood. But right now, we're going to bring in Locked On Clippers host Darian Vaziri. Thanks so much for being with us because the Clippers had a pretty busy day, and I'm going to try to just real quickly go over the net positive and what they gave up and what they picked up. The final outcome: Luke Kennard, Reggie Jackson, John Wall were shipped out. Eric Gordon, Bones Hyland, and Mason Plumlee coming in, joining the Clippers. What is your overall feeling about these moves?
Honestly, Kylen, first I want to say thanks for having me, but I am so ecstatic. It really does hurt to see Reggie Jackson and Luke Kennard go, though, because for Clipper fans, that 2021 playoff run was the best in franchise history, and Luke Kennard and Reggie Jackson, in particular, Reggie Jackson was such a big part of that. It's really hard to say goodbye to those guys. I mean, I'm wearing a shirt right now with Luke Kennard's face on it. And Reggie Jackson was just so beloved by Clipper fans. So from that perspective, it's hard to see them go. But bringing in a backup center, which has been the one hole in the Clippers roster all season, a guy who has so much experience starting at the center position in the NBA, in Mason Plumlee, I think it's such a fantastic move. He can rebound, he defends, he's got sneaky athleticism, and also he can pass the ball better than people give him credit for as well. And then as for Eric Gordon and Bones Hyland, I think those are a little bit more interesting. I will say I do think the Clippers – I've been saying on Locked On Clippers for a while that I don't think that when everyone's healthy, John Wall and Reggie Jackson should play. So to bring in a guy like Eric Gordon, who is a former Clipper, who was drafted by the Clippers, can still offer some points off the bench, I think it's good. Bones Hyland is one that interests me, though, because – he's an exciting young player, can score in bunches, doesn't really defend. I see him as like a younger, more talented Reggie Jackson because he honestly offers a lot of the same problems. He doesn't really defend. His shot selection is questionable. I'm more interested to hear from Nuggets fans of why they were so eager to move him. I know they've been trying to move him for a couple of weeks, but overall, Clippers with Bones Hyland get younger, with Eric Gordon get a little bit stronger defensively than Luke Kennard. They're both around 6'4", 6'5", but Eric Gordon is a big 6'4". And Luke Kennard at times got overpowered defensively. But the main win here is to bring in a backup big. And honestly, not having Reggie Jackson because Ty Lue was playing him too many minutes, and that was putting him in a tough position to play poorly more than he really needed to, in my opinion. So it's a big win overall for the Clips today.
Well, that's good news. Good to hear for the fan base. And, Mason Plumlee still is a solid center. He's like averaging a double-double. But one area of interest is that the Clippers gave up in their traditional point guards in Wall and Jackson. And I've seen some talk, fans just kind of questioning, what direction are they going with this? Which guard is going to really step into the role? Is anyone going to really need to run the offense? What is your take on that? And what do you think the future is as far as the point guard position specifically with the Clippers?
As far as I honestly have no idea. But as far as what I want, I truly don't think the true point guard is as much of a necessity as people think. I would love to have a high IQ point guard, but the thing is, we need a point guard that is also a threat to score the ball. The thing is, Rajon Rondo and John Wall were brought in because people that are like these guys in their primes, they used to average 9-10 assists a night. But the problem with Rondo and John Wall, and people are going to ask me about Westbrook, and I think this is the same with Russ, is that off the ball, offensively, they don't really have much value. They're not floor spacers. They're not shooters. They don't really cut without the ball. And then with the ball, teams are going to go underneath all the screens with them. They do it with Russ. They did it with John Wall. Did it with Rondo. They're going to ask them to shoot the ball. They need to be threats to score, and then that will open up opportunities for other guys. I think Bones Hyland, even though nobody thinks of him as like a passer or anything like that, he's quick off the dribble. I think he can blow by guys that attracts a second defender where he can find open shooters. But the thing is, he's young. I don't see him playing in crunch time. So mainly, I think the criticism of the backup point guard thing, the point guard thing is the Clippers struggle to get good shots in crunch time. And I think if they were to have a true point guard, that could be in during crunch time. That point guard needs to be able to get his own shot. I think people are like, he needs to put Kawhi and Paul George in the right spots. So are you telling me that these guys the Clippers have now can't make passes to Kawhi and Paul George, like coming off screens or catching the ball in the mid post? Is that what you're telling me? Because if they want Paul and Kawhi to get wide open shots in crunch time, the only way that point guard can attract two defenders himself. And John Wall, Russell Westbrook, I just don't think those guys were the answer. And plus, what I didn't even mention about John, Russ, and Rondo is defensively, they didn't do much. And it's hard to stay on an NBA court in 2023 when you not only don't play great defense, but you can't shoot the ball in terms of being an off-ball floor spacer. So it's tough. I honestly think the Clippers, I would be fine with riding out this squad personally. I really would, with no traditional point guard. All that matters is if the Clippers create enough good shots. That's what matters in the end.
It's a great point. And, do they really need a point guard to create great shots for Kawhi or for Paul George, like you mentioned? Theoretically, not necessarily. Now, looking at where the team's at right now, 31-27, sitting at 6th in the Western Conference. They've won 7. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games. Where do you feel like this puts them as far as competitiveness? How much of an improvement did this make? And especially now looking at Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving in the Western Conference right now, what do you feel like is going to play out when it comes down to the crunch time in the Western Conference?
That's a really good question, because the second the news came out about Kevin Durant, everyone's asking me, so D, the Clippers title window is closed. Like, well, how do you feel? Now you have no chance of winning. And I know Denver Nuggets fans are probably getting the same kind of comments as well. But the Denver Nuggets, I think, have shown that right now they're number 1 seed. They have the best chemistry in the West right now. The thing with the Clippers is I need to see us play like a championship team before I could think about the competition, the field. If I'm not confident in our own performance, then it doesn't matter what other good teams are out there. Because right now the Denver Nuggets are who I consider the biggest threat, the team that we struggle with. So until I see championship tendencies consistently from the Clippers, I can't be confident to say they're going to make it out of the West. But with these moves, I think sometimes, they say it's addition by subtraction or whatever. I think losing Reggie Jackson, and as much as I love the guy, is going to be so good, because the problem is Ty Lue's not having a good season because he's so persistent with guys like Reggie. He just gets a longer leash than other players when they're playing poorly. And I think just removing that from the team and forcing the Clippers to play guys like Terrence Mann, Nicholas Batum, Norman Powell even more is just going to make the Clippers roster that's already so talented look even better. So I think I kept saying the Clippers don't need a huge move, just make small moves. And they did exactly that. I couldn't be more proud of our front office. I really couldn't.
Okay, so interesting. But outlook looking forward, do you think this team and this roster with these moves has the potential to be contenders?
Absolutely has the potential to be contenders. I think overall it's going to come down to 2 things. Ty Lue figuring out, who are his guys he's going to play every night for a good amount of minutes. Just figuring out the new rotation with these guys, how many guys are going to play a night? Is he going to keep trying to switch it up? Are we going to find any sort of consistency where guys know they're playing coming into a game? Because I feel like with Robert Covington, Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson, even John Wall, all 5 of those guys have walked into games where they're like, I don't know how much I'm playing tonight. And it's not like the normal NBA coach where, someone will play 30 minutes or 25 minutes, depending on how they're feeling. It'll be like either Robert Covington's playing 15 minutes or he's not playing at all. And I just don't think that's comfortable for a player to build any sort of confidence and rhythm for himself. So that's the one thing. And then the main thing, how well are Kawhi and Paul George going to play? At the end of the day, it's a stars league. They have to be better on a consistent basis. And it's really going to come down to that. Everybody else wants to talk about all these other things, all these marginal moves. It's going to come down to how well Kawhi Leonard and Paul George play more than anything. But now I think we did a good job of making their supporting cast better.
Well, I'm excited to see how it plays out. There's plenty to watch in the West right now, and we'll have to see, do the Clippers step up? Do they rise to the occasion? Like you said, will their stars play like stars? All right, well, thanks so much to Locked On Clippers host Darian Vaziri for joining us for more on the NBA trade deadline. Find your local Locked On show and subscribe to Locked On NBA for the very latest. We are following all the latest moves and breaking it down for you. Locked On is your team every day.